Set some of the filters.
Looks like I turned the volume down. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. What can I say? All right. So we in. So now I can talk and play instruments at the same time, which is kind of what I'm going for here. Give you certain feelings about the news. I like to observe how, depending on the chords that you play, it'll make you feel a certain way about the images that you're looking at. This is inevitable. Music is also just sacred geometry with the that at all. And depending on the arrangement of the notes and what their relationships are to each other, what the distances are, you basically have the whole map of the human soul in there. Especially when you start to combine notes together. Yeah, so these are just some images from the, you know, what's his face? The eclipse. This was tonight. The grand solar mega ultra eclipse, and I mean, this is just my GoPro. My GoPro's terrible at night. I have a couple other images from, here's my here's the DSLR. It looks a little better, but it's definitely very washed out. It was definitely easy to see with the naked eye, but it's very hard to get a picture of, at least with my equipment. I thought this was interesting because you can actually see the reflection of the moon. This is completely out of focus, but you could still see a very in focus version of the moon there, just to the side, and it's going in the opposite direction as it moves. And this, it is just a lens flare. I was moving the camera back and forth. And that's it getting out of frame. This is sort of before, and it's interesting even with the GoPro. I mean, you can sort of make out the clouds, right? What's going on up there? But the moon itself is giving this crazy sort of streak to the left and the right. That's definitely not something I was seeing in person, but that's what's showing up here on the GoPro. And just always fascinated with layers of perception, especially when you get out the camera. Like, it'd be nice to just be able to get an image of what's up there, but that doesn't really seem possible because the eye is very adaptive, right? It'll play tricks on you and make things look different than they actually are. And so will the camera, right? It'll pick up stuff that you can't see or that anybody can see, really. So we'll just play little bits of this. I mean, these aren't really very good images, but you can see it, right? I let it run for quite some time, so I wanted to see what it looked like in the time lapse, right? So, and it was definitely very cloudy. So any sort of dipping in brightness, I would put off to after that. But wow, yeah, see, that's fascinating. These are all in a row. So it was quite bright. It was a full moon. I mean, if you didn't go outside and you're into this kind of conspiracy stuff, then that's weird because it was right outside. It was easy to see. So hopefully went outside in some time in these 3 hours and went and took a look at it. I want to get a little more zoomed in here. Right, and then you can see. I mean, even though it's incredibly noisy, you can see how it starts to get covered up here. It was still at full brightness, right? You're seeing all the clouds and everything as the brightness decreases. It goes out of frame, you can barely see it. It's just this little thing. Move these all over. Right, but that's kind of nuts. Start to lose it. This is obviously very low res, but that's sort of what it was looking like. It had a sort of little corner on it. I had some other ones here at the beginning. Am I right or am I not right? A little tiny video. Yeah, because let's take a look over here. Some other images leading up to it. Right, so this is earlier in the day. Just taking a couple of these. What was amazing to me, I mean, there's been a fair amount of spring, I guess you could say. But especially this morning, it was wild. The whole sky was just full of these things. Zoom here. Yeah, so you can see that all of this is definitely man-made. All of these clouds formations, and it was definitely this thick, milky white. And yeah, I was looking a bunch last night at different types of clouds, and I'm trying to be a little armchair scientist here, but you can definitely look up and see at least what their descriptions are and their ideas are about these different types of cloud formations, because then you get a better idea of when you're looking at these clouds, what the actual altitude is of some of them, because certain clouds will only form at certain altitudes, and you can do your research and check that out. having some serious sample dropouts. Music technology is ultra frustrating. But this was just the general scene of the day. It was sort of this milky sort of haze that we're definitely used to around here. But a lot of streaks, a lot of spraying going down, and it seemed like it was possibly more than your average day, and then in preparation for the actual sunset itself. And this is earlier in the day, but you can see everything was just sort of shrouded. And I took list pictures definitely towards the end of the day. But you can see that, right, this was the sunset that was happening. And those are definitely very high altitude clouds. You're able to see the patterning in there. And that's, I was reading all this stuff. I'm gonna have to dig it up. Probably have to make like a whole separate cloud education series. But they talk about how these clouds come in different groups, and they were trying to give their reasons for these cloudlets, as they call them. And you read the whole paper, and it's really unclear about it. It doesn't seem like they even really know why these things form. At least that's what I was getting from the Meteorological Society. So what else? It was definitely a beautiful sunset before we got into this. Blood moon that we were getting into. I was just noticing this streak right here across. It's interesting. Alright, but that's these are my observations. This is our world out here. Very fascinating, especially during right at the sunset period. There was really some fantastic clouds, and this really, this contrast between the blue, purplish that the sky was getting, and the clouds themselves. If there's always obvious, this is not Nibiru. This is definitely lens flare. Definitely lens flare, not Nibiru. I'm just gonna say definitely at this point. Right, I like that one. There's some fascinating colors in here. And this in relation, right, to the blood moon. It was a similar, I guess, kind of similar color that we were getting out of the blood moon itself. That I was already talking about, right? So, and then it was extremely overcast. We weren't even really sure if we were going to get to see it. I feel like there were similar reports from across the country of sort of haze, or the inability to actually cut through what's going on there. So we can actually get a really good up close and personal picture with the eclipse. I guess some people aren't going to care, but it was definitely all over conspiratainment culture, and definitely a bunch all over the mainstream stuff as well. They're always talking about sun events and moon events and eclipses. It seems like that's something that we really love in the mainstream, is to bring up these big, astrological events and talk about them and explain them and get you all hyped up about the ultra super blood moon. You can go on the internet and watch a bunch of, clips of I'm about to cut together a bunch of clips. That's too much work. But you can find it pretty easily. But yeah, that was the moon. I wanna just keep moving on through here. Half an hour really isn't that long when you think about it. So let's go right here. Just checking the headlines real quick. What are we supposed to feel right now, right? New video complicates uproar over incident between student and Native American man, right? And so it's almost like we're inoculated to this kind of thing, but these aren't really like fact-based like stories. This is the first article when you just go to Google News, and this is, I guess, from an hour ago. Right, so what even is this? Student in the video said he's received death threats after the confrontation and attempt to clarify that he was trying to help defuse the situation. More video emerged on the bottom of a Native American man and a student wearing a Make America Great hat. right? So it's just more dog whistling, race relation. Secretly, Trump is a terrible monster human that has to die, so we can all get back into whatever the plan was before this all went down. Am I going to show this video?
We did receive 3 pages of comments from this young man. His family sent it out, and here's part of what he...
He's just sitting there grinning at this Native American guy. It's the culture of trolls, right? That's sort of what we created in this culture, and they got the young kids stepping up on it, and I don't know, I just want to make that pretty. This is also just a very emotional sort of, right? It's all just deeply and this is Huffington Post, so obviously they're going to be hardcore on the identity politics, but that's about all you're going to find here, which is crazy. You know, I would think of going into the news, maybe there would be something about the eclipse. It's probably lower down, right? This is more just opinion about what's going on with the shutdown, because nobody can really figure out or decide what the problem is, and they keep having meetings and nothing is going to work out, and they just keep going back and forth, and it doesn't seem to have any sort of resolution even coming down the pike. So I really don't know what to make of that. I do know it's fake, though, on some level. That's just the main trouble that we're always trying to get to the bottom of. The fake is it? Where does the line stop where it stops being fake, and where do people actually begin their real emotions? I think it's hard for anybody really to figure that out themselves, right, these days. I saw something about the blood moon. Get some cool pictures. I'm sure lots of people take cool pictures of the blood moon. Being sidetracked now. Something about sports, something. Dog whistle, something. Bad movies getting attention. That's all just so boring to me. I mean, that's why I end up on this PoleShift stuff. So, because this is, I was curious, what you guys think. I obviously read a lot about the end of the world, because it seems inevitable. That seems to be all that's really available to us. And so I'm tracking these 2 major stories, as I'm sure some of you are as well.
People are going to be there.
Right, there's Leak Project with Oppenheimer Ranch, and this is Suspicious Observers, which is a fantastic channel, actually. Right, and anything moon related, they got to put the Apollo space program disclaimer in there. But this is a great video. This is, I guess, the 11th in this long series that he's doing about a MiniNova, which is really terrifying you, because just talking about how there could be some CME or large sort of outburst from the sun, or some sort of crazy explosion that happens because the sun always does that, and it's a periodic thing and not just a random occurrence. So it's coming for us, and you don't know exactly when, but it's on its way. And right, a MiniNova would basically kick out the grid. It would ruin everything. We would all just be totally toast at that point, and then we would get hit by a bunch of rocks too, and it would be totally apocalyptic. Very much like, those images in the Bible. It's the sort of thing in the hell and brimstone and meteors raining down. That's the sort of images that I get from this MiniNova. Right, and so that's, with the link below, you should watch the whole series on his, he just does these bad reports about space weather, which is always kind of fascinating. Right, and then, Dominique, and, what's his name? Rex Baird, they're talking about the pole reversal, which is a completely different and related, possibly related topic, right? But they've been doing a lot of, it's not just them, a lot of people have been doing great research into, I don't know if we can get any of the images that they were using, yeah, right? This the polar wander, and you can see that the pole has been wandering like insanity, and they're saying that it's just speeding up right now, and it's really just going to start burning up, right? It's going to start really moving towards the equator, and that's really going to screw everything up. And since the North Pole is passing this line here, it's starting to mess with all the ship navigation and everything. And this is not fake, at least in the mainstream sense. This is definitely mainstream. Now I was reading some articles in Nature the other day. This is definitely a registered sort of anomaly that's going down, and up at all the articles, right? You read all the science articles, and they keep talking about that too. That they don't know why. Scientists can't figure it out. Like, why is it moving around like this? And they can't figure it out. But I think that's a big lie right there. This one side. When you read an article that says scientists are baffled by this thing, that's doesn't really seem correct, right? Scientists should definitely be aware of the experiments and the time that they're putting into stuff and where it's headed, right? If you're any way a decent scientist, so to be baffled by what's going on, although it does seem very strange, I'm also baffled. The pole is obviously shifting. It's definitely shifting. MiniNova is a little harder because that happens every, hard to say, right? They're saying maybe every 100,000 years. Maybe. Right? And you can get a lot of this kind of fear porn, because that's just the name of the game. That's all we really got going around these days. And a lot of articles just postulating or talking about different ways of interaction happening between the stars and this planet, and sort of spitballing or presenting different ideas about toxicity and what's going to happen, basically. Right, and this looks like an interesting article about all sorts of elementary particles, but I'm sure it's saying something about, this thing could happen and they could totally wipe us out. We would be mega screwed, right? Mega screwed. So I want to get into, because I watched this last night, and this is actually, I'm not really one to get too paranoid about what's going on. I mean, it's obvious that the deep state or whoever's pulling the strings can keep track of everything and have such advanced algorithms and machine learning at this point that they don't really need to physically have anybody sift through anything. They can just have the algorithms pull up the bad stuff that they want to kick out. And there's just a lot of different types of digital watermarking systems. I mean, if you work in media in any sort of way, you'll know that all the files that you use and everything, there's lots of NDAs and ways to protect content that has been created. So it's pretty easy to get out there and copy stuff, or for basically anybody with half of a powerful computer knowledge in InfoSec will be able to get your shit, basically, especially if it's a government agency at any sort of that kind of level. So all that is to say, I don't really know. I think it's iCloud also that is just basically terrible. But I was watching this movie last night, right? This is IO, and again, let me just. I was like joking before I started watching it. Like, let me guess, it's gonna be about the end of the world, and there's gonna be a strong woman that's gonna be the protagonist in it, and that is exactly what this whole movie is. Basically, the premise is that the air gets sucked out, and it's very similar to this whole kind of concept of the PoleShift or some other great catastrophic change in the Earth's climate or environment that could really cause things to go off the rails. Right, and so the planet gets toxic, and then basically all of humanity decides to escape. They're going to go to IO and basically head on to another star because they totally screwed up the planet, and they're just going to leave. But there's one girl, right, with a powerful mind, and she's stuck behind and is going to try to figure out the cure to all things, because basically you can't even go outside in most places. You have to wear this gas mask. And she's got, her dad playing on the radio, and there's a lot of cloak and dagger lying to each other. This guy comes and finds her, and she's lying to him the whole time, saying that, her dad's still alive and that everything's fine. Right? But she lives up here on this like sort of clean patch where you can see the clouds. That's where you would get sick if you went down there. Tough times. And she's doing all right. She's like growing vegetables and having a basic life going on here all alone. And then this guy comes and finds her, and he's actually looking for her dad, but it doesn't really matter. He just seems kind of sad in general. And then they talk like a whole bunch. And I mean, you think from the beginning that, like, right? You see this image. You're like, oh man, it's gonna be a space movie, it's gonna be sick. And actually, there is just these two people talking the whole time. That's the whole movie, right? I'm all about spoiling this right now. And basically, they just talk, and they obviously fall in love, and think each other are cool. But they're like the last people on Earth, basically. Everybody's going on to this new star, and so they have to leave. And there's just this whole general feeling of deep sadness permeating the whole movie, right? Because and that's the funny thing, if we pull this up really quick, all of the reviews seem to be, like, terrible, basically. They're saying it's bad, they're saying it's the longest sci-fi movie you'll ever watch. I heard one that was just like, it tries to lift off and never gets off the ground, and that's true because they never actually go to space. Right? And then there's a bunch of more wandering around, and I mean, we're running out of time, but I want to get into the symbolism. We can do that tomorrow of Io, the actual planet, and the Greek mythology. There's a ton of symbolism all throughout the movie of Io and mythology and Saturn and all of the different, that connection of mythology to the planets, and how Yeats and a bunch of other important poets, just everybody that's in the know seems to be massively obsessed with mythology and those archetypes for whatever reason. There's probably many different reasons. And just to give it all away, she's like gonna leave, and the guy's like, we gotta go to space, and she's like, no, fuck it, and she just takes off her mask, and she's been like poking herself with ammonia or whatever the outside stuff is the whole time, and turns out she could just totally straight up breathe poisonous air now because she had conditioned herself for like who knows, a year, maybe longer, and it totally worked. And then somehow she randomly had a kid too. Maybe she got the guy's sperm before he left. But then that's the last scene. They're just like on the beach and hanging out in the mist and breathing some ammonia in. So I guess that's the moral of the story, is that, like, don't give up on Earth, and that we're gonna figure out a way to adapt to whatever totally screwed up situation that we created here. Is that what's going on? Is that really what's going to happen? I'm not sure, right? But it doesn't seem to matter. Wherever you go, wherever you look, you go on Netflix. Oh, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world, strong women. Go on, conspiracy stuff. Oh, it's the PoleShift. Oh, it's the MiniNova. Oh, it's the mud flood. Obviously, like, manipulating cells and terrible stuff, but I don't know. Sometimes it's just a little exhausting, right? You're trying to relax. Maybe you watch a nice little drama, and it just doesn't work out. That's not what is happening. So, anyways, that's the end of this one. I'm gonna leave you with this other hexagon. You got from Line Spot. Hexagons all over here. Right, and that was the point of our tow story, real quick. We're out of time, but I watched this whole movie, and I took a bunch of screenshots of it that I saved to my desktop, and desktop gets saved to iCloud, and somehow when I got this up this morning, when I checked the desktop, all those files were gone, and then for some reason, all of my screenshots were getting deleted. They just disappeared. There's only a couple random ones from a couple days ago, but they just seemingly randomly, the rest of them have been deleted, and honestly, I didn't do it, and I have no idea how it happened, so. I find it really hard to say. I find it really hard to know. I find it really hard to believe anything, but that's just the world we live in these days, so whatever, forget it.